We were about to go ham too. All right. Welcome to this special edition of The Run-In. We have kicked those other guys out, and we have won this day. And we're going to have a special conversation about the it factor. Now, my guy.
What's going on?
All right. What, in your opinion, what is the it factor for a top guy?
The it factor for a top guy, I think it includes a bunch of things. It's a combination of a lot of things. But for me, personally, it's charisma, presence, believability, and adaptability.
All right. I would add charisma, presence, how you communicate,
Connection.
talent,
Absolutely.
right? Talent is a part of that. And the look, right? So it's just like when I think of a top guy, I think of Macho Man, I think of Hulk Hogan, I think of Ultimate Warrior. Top guys.
Yes.
Right?
Eccentric.
Yes. And bigger than life. Turning their characters up to 1,000.
Yes.
Right? And conveying to the crowd basically what they want to do, what they're going to do, and selling who they are and selling the event. You know? So it's the top two for me is talent and charisma.
Okay.
Right? You got to be able to show up in the ring. You got to be able to talk. Now, what do you think is the best out of those two? What's the top criteria?
Between talent and charisma?
Yeah.
In this case, I'm going to have to go with charisma. Only because talent you can get better. But charisma, I do believe it's something you either have or you don't.
All right. So now, is that talent or is that skill?
That's skill.
Right?
That's skill.
So, like, let's say the Brooklyn Brawler, right? He was skilled, right? He was skilled.
Yeah.
Right? Probably more skilled than
a lot of people. Absolutely.
Than a lot of people. My favorite, Arn Anderson, skilled, right? But did he have the charisma to take the ball and run?
No.
Right? And I would agree with you. Charisma is like way above talent any day because we got Mick Foley.
Yes.
Right? Now, was he the most skilled wrestler? No.
Absolutely not.
Right? As Ric Flair would say, glorified stuntman. But his charisma through the roof.
He was able to connect with the fans.
Yes.
An authentic connection. Like they saw themselves through Mick Foley's baby boy.
Facts.
Through those eyes.
Now, who would you say got over on talent alone?
On just purely talent? I've referred to this name often, but I think, Mr. Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
I think that's strictly just off talent.
So, yeah. I would say.
Obviously, I know it's a little touchy subject, but that's just a wrestler I think off the rip that immediately comes to mind.
Daniel Bryan. Right? Straight talent. Right? Okay on the mic. But
man, that was electric.
But between the ropes, talent.
Yes.
All day.
All day.
All day. And I think his talent is what got him to the promised land of main eventing WrestleMania. Right? Having 2 matches at WrestleMania at that. Right? Like he's a prime example. But for the most part, charisma, you have to connect with the fans either through talent or charisma. Right? Would you agree? I
would agree. But it's the charisma, I think. That's the electricity. That's what draws in the fans.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. So historically speaking, right? When we talk about the Hulk Hogans, when we talk about the Ric Flairs, when we talk about the Macho Mans, right? Bigger than life talents, right? Bigger than life charisma,
Bigger
right?
than
It
life
was
characters.
the
Yes.
the wave or the hand to the arms, the pump up like Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man doing the oh yeah,
Yep.
right? I feel that historically it wasn't about the in-ring work, right? It was about the charisma, with the exception of Ric Flair, with the exception of Macho Man. But it was about the charisma and selling the fight, where you built this guy off of him fighting insurmountable odds. Because before it was like superheroes. We were watching these guys who were huge and monstrous and big, fighting somebody who was even bigger.
Literal Hulk Hogan,
Hulk Hogan.
Andre.
Yeah.
That's the big,
Yeah. So historically, what sold you on a wrestler?
So what sold me on a wrestler, I'm always going to go back to this, and I know I beat it, to the ground, but it's always the charisma and the look, what you bring to me. It's not necessarily the in-ring work. For instance, The Undertaker, that entire entity, that being, that mystery, especially at that point in time in the 90s, that's what drew me in. It was the charisma. And he didn't even have to say a word.
And he wasn't that good in the 90s.
He wasn't that good, but he didn't have to say a word.
Yeah.
It was a very silent character. And that's how you know you can draw
Facts.
from fans. If you can say nothing, facial
Facts.
expressions.
And I think he's one of those guys who had aura more so than charisma, more so than talent. He embodied that character.
Yes.
To the point where, like you said, he didn't have to say anything. Like Kane. Kane didn't talk for the first 3 or 4 years.
Kane's form of communication was a little head turn. That was
or
it.
the
the
voice box. Hello.
I forgot about the voice box.
Right? So then you have older characters, because I'm older than you. I get it. Like the missing link. Right?
I know who he is. I've seen that man.
You got people like Yokozuna, who was a world champion for 10 months and didn't speak. All he said was bonsai.
That's it.
Which was kind of weird, because why are you saying bonsai as a...
And did you see when he eventually spoke? It just came out of the blue. It was out of nowhere.
Yeah. So it's historically speaking, I feel that charisma was the prime mover of whether a guy got over or not. These days, I think it is a blend of talent and charisma, and whether the company decides to push you. Right? Now, how do you feel about talent or the top guy being pushed on us and forced down our throats, i.e. Roman Reigns, John Cena, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, to name a few?
To name a few, look at the results. You get booed.
Yes.
You get booed. And you're forced to do a character change.
Facts.
Not necessarily forced to, because obviously John Cena, like, it took him about 20 years, but he finally did it.
Yeah.
But for example, Hogan, he was getting booed. You couldn't hide it. So eventually you had to make the turn. It ended up being one of the best turns in wrestling history.
Facts.
Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Facts.
Shawn Michaels, that planted the seed for DX.
True.
I know it was a little... They had to build into that, because I believe he had a storyline with Stone Cold Steve Austin in between as a tag champ at the end of his tenure.
Yeah, that was before when they were building to the world title.
Okay.
Right? So when Shawn was getting booed, this was after he lost his smile. Right? And then he was fighting Sid.
Yes.
And then Sid hit his ass with the camera.
The camera.
And knocked him out. And people cheered Sid. Now, Sid was supposed to be the next Hulk Hogan. Right? And this is the company pushing this guy. And the wrestler saying, nah, I got baseball to play. All right. And this is well known. And the thing is that Sid had the look, he had the intensity, and he connected with the fans, but he couldn't speak worth a damn. Right?
No.
Couple times world champion. Main eventer everywhere he was at.
To that point, I only want to say I don't think he could speak, but his best was when he was Psycho Sid, in my opinion. Like, that was his peak, but even then it was...
Yeah, it was a precursor to Stone Cold.
Exactly.
Right? And to the point of the company pushing wrestlers who they think are going to be great or amazing or do something, right? Now, the question becomes, is it up to the company to create this character? Or is it up to the talent to take what they're given, like the wrestler, to take what they're given and do their best to make it something to break out from?
I mean, I think it's a combination of both, but really, at the end of the day, it really boils down to the company.
Yeah.
I do think it boils down to the company.
Like, what do you mean? Because
in terms, okay.
I can't agree with that one.
Because the company they have to be able to acknowledge who the crowd acknowledges, who the fans are getting after.
Facts.
Once they do that, I believe they'll be able to, it's with them that the result that you want to see. Like, they have to be the ones to push that superstar. The company has to promote it in the right way. That's why I said it's a combination of both, because to your point, you can push them down our throats, i.e. Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, or it can be a natural, authentic connection. Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston. And then you gotta capitalize.
Well, Kofi Kingston was a different cat, and we'll get to that in a couple of seconds, right? So I'll say this. It's the company's job to push something, right? It's the talent's job to push themselves and get that over.
Agreed.
Right? Because nobody else could have gotten The Undertaker over besides Mark Calloway. Right? Nobody else could have gotten King Booker over besides Booker T.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Did Paul Bearer help the ascension of Undertaker?
All day.
Absolutely.
Okay. Did he need him in the beginning?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And Paul Bearer was a part of that charisma piece. Right? Because he was an actual Paul Bearer.
It was actual Paul Bearer, but he was the promo. He was the mouthpiece.
He was the mouthpiece.
He was the connection as well.
And even if we look at somebody like the anomaly, Brock Lesnar, right? And in the beginning, you had Paul Heyman. And that was talent. Brock's talent, he was a physical monster.
Specimen.
Was he undeniable?
Huh?
Is that why they kept him? Was he undeniable?
Like, the guy was huge.
Yeah. But he, not only that, but he was it was everything. He had everything you wanted: speed, power,
and he was legit.
Yes,
legit.
On top of that,
he wasn't just a power guy who was like Ultimate Warrior, right?
Legitimate
Ultimate Warrior was
credentials.
Just muscles. Brock was a legit NCAA champion.
So you're saying Ultimate Warrior wasn't talented?
He was more charismatic. He wasn't talented in the ring.
Warrior was just a ball of energy. If you really go back and watch his matches, it's him running to the ring in a rampage, couple clotheslines, no selling, body slam, finish of the match.
And that's
it.
And that's all you needed.
No.
Shaking of the ropes.
Yeah,
absolutely. No. To your point, I'm saying that was the charisma. Like, it wasn't.
So you didn't think he was talented?
In the ring?
Not in the ring. Not in the ring.
Right? Not in the ring. But we mentioned this before you came in, right? That back in the day, you didn't need to be talented in the ring. You didn't need to do much. Look at Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was the biggest thing smoking, right? All he did was get his ass whipped for 5-10 minutes. Then they put him in a sleeper hold. He raises his arm 3 times. The third time he puts his arm up, he hulks up, does the no, points at the guy.
Yep.
And then big boot, leg drop. It's over.
It's over. And then, but that Hulk Hogan was the perfect literal representation of, like, he would always talk to the crowd. Give the guy mad time. The guy would be in there about to hit him with the chair, and he's like, "You guys see this? You guys see this? Should I hit him?
Yeah.
Should I hit him?"
Yeah.
Connection, pure connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Which is true.
Hulkamania or Hollywood?
Both. Right? Without Hulkamania, without him being the top guy, none of us would be having this conversation. And then Hollywood was straight charisma on steroids because he just flipped it around, right? Instead of doing the say your prayers, vitamins, and XYZ, right? It was like, you guys could shut it. I'm about this money.
to that point, then it's Hulkamania, because without that, there is no Hollywood.
Yeah.
There is no Hollywood.
So it's I say it's the wrestler's job to take what they're given and boost it up. A lot of the times when we come in with the four of us, right, where we're talking about the past.
The running?
The running, yes. Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
The
running.
running. You're right, DJ. You're right.
The running. We got an outsider here from the other side. From the other side, King Hater. Right? Now, here's the thing. Is being a top guy something that is you're born with? Right? Is the charisma something that you could learn? Is the talent something that you could learn, or the skill set something that you could learn, or are you born with it?
My opinion is the talent you can learn. Mm-hmm. I feel like you can work to get better. Obviously, in-ring skills. Promo work, charisma, I think you have it or you don't. The Rock nobody taught The Rock. He just has it. Austin, nobody taught Austin. He just has it.
So I would disagree with that.
Really?
Right? Because if you look at Austin in ACW, right? And when he was in WCW, okay, Austin didn't really talk much. Without Paul Heyman pulling that out of Austin, right? And letting him talk and letting him get his frustrations out, you wouldn't have Stone Cold.
Austin 316.
Right?
That's true. That's true.
Now, the thing is...
Was that WCW's fault for not seeing that?
Yeah.
Well, but I was going to go...
How could they see that, though?
They put him...
Yeah.
Opportunity, but also they had stuck him on a tag team with him and Flying Brian.
And Flying Brian was a great team.
I mean,
great team.
Yes.
And you had him with the talker. You had him with a guy who could talk. Right? Even when he was with the Dangerous Alliance, you had him with a guy who could talk in Paul Lee Dangerously. Right? Or Paul Heyman. Right? You had him with a guy who could talk.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
A mouthpiece.
So even if we look at great talkers like Shawn Michaels, right? Shawn Michaels was not that great of a talker until he broke away from Marty Jannetty. We didn't see him talk.
DX. That's
right?
true.
Until he got with DX.
Okay.
Right?
I'll give you that.
So I feel that you can learn to cut a promo and learn to be good. Like, even if we look at Roman Reigns, right? When he was the big dog, nobody wanted to hear him. But when he became the tribal chief, it's a different thing.
All right, but how much is the company into that? Because when he was the big dog, he was kind of...
pushed down our throats. Pause.
Yeah. But to that point, you know what I mean? That's the company okay, so that's a failed one. Him as a tribal chief is success.
It's success.
Capitalizing on the moment.
Now, here's the thing, right? I believe that some people just got it. Kurt Angle just had it. Right? Mark Henry had to learn who he was. Right? This is what I do. Right? He had to learn that. But Eddie Guerrero just had it. Right? From what
Natural
we saw.
Charisma. Yes.
But by that time, he already had 20 years in the business.
Okay.
Right? But then if we look at the offset, right? Rey Mysterio. Is Rey Mysterio a great promo? No. Not in the least bit. His talent gets him through the door every time because you don't see what he does. right?
Okay. I don't want to get away from the subject, but just to that point, do you think that he wasn't a good talker because he was never allowed to really be fully heel?
Who, Rey Mysterio?
Rey Mysterio. Because do you think it's easier for heels to, I guess,
Yes.
you know what I mean,
Yeah.
garner heat to...
Yes, it's way easier for heels to get over.
Yes.
For the most part.
Okay.
Some heels get over like a wet fart. Right?
Yes.
Some heels are just awful. Right?
You
Get
don't
them
want to
off
see
the
them.
screen.
Get up, like,
Right?
get them out of here. Sunday Night Heat.
Yes.
Agree.
And I feel that tenure plays a part in a push as a top guy though too. Right? Because if we look at the Bret Harts, right? When did Bret Hart get his run?
He was about 10 years in. already.
10 years in,
10 years in.
right? He was at WrestleMania 1,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? He didn't wrestle on the program, but he says, I was there, right? He was wrestling tag team matches against the Killer Bees, right?
Killer Bees, British Bulldogs.
Yes,
yeah,
all
all
that.
of them. Yes.
Right? So Kofi's another one.
Recent
Tenure.
memory, Kofi. Yes.
Yeah, tenure.
You love some Kofi, dog.
That's my guy. That's my guy.
Would you even, all right, with Kofi, would you give it to Big E as well? Potential tenure?
No,
Was
Big E he fit the mold of what the company was looking for,
At the time.
right? At the time. Big guy who was athletic, who could talk, who was
Yeah,
charismatic,
Yeah. Yep.
Was
right?
he talented?
He was super talented, right? Like you see a guy who could spear somebody through the ropes and go with him, right? Super talented. Big dude who looked like a monster, right?
And he could work inside
Yes.
the ring. He could
And-
really work.
And the thing is with him, it's just like some of these guys, I feel that they try to find some way to get them over, right? That's why it takes so long, right? Where if we look at The Rock, we spoke about The Rock last week when he was Rocky Maivia, right?
Terrible outfit.
Terrible outfit,
Horrible.
terrible character.
Terrible theme.
Yes.
All of that.
Or
All
if
of
we
that.
look at Hunter Hearst Helmsley,
Trash. Big doo-doo. But I get it.
big trash
But I get it, though.
Right?
At the time.
at the time.
At the
right?
time, but yeah, especially at the time, they were very character heavy. So
Yes.
he had to fit a specific mold, even though he had nothing to do with that.
Yes. And the thing about it is that the tenure plays a part, but you got to figure out a way to work yourself into the conversation. Right? Because the top of the card is always going to be the top of the card, at least for 5-6 years. Right? Before Brett got to the top, who was at the top?
It was the
It was Hulk Hogan,
Hulk Hogan.
Macho Man, at the time, Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect.
I mean, you can even say, would you say Yokozuna? Because he had to take it from him.
Yoko came in after.
That's true. That's true.
Right? But if we're talking about the top guys, then when Brett was there, it was Brett, Shawn Michaels, Sid Vicious, and whoever else. Yokozuna, Undertaker, Diesel,
So Diesel.
Razor Ramon.
Hacksaw?
Wow.
Oh! No?
No.
I don't even know where Hacksaw would. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. But
Right?
State?
I would put him as a top guy in the 80s
I'm just saying.
all day.
He was in that.
He was in that
he was in that realm.
Yeah.
right? And he had the charisma to make it, but his demons kept him out of that situation.
That tier.
You know, it's just like I feel that tenure plays a part. Like we said last week, some of these guys are stuck in the mid card because a lot of these guys who are at the top are lasting 10, 15, 20 years.
But it's good, though, if they can keep that longevity, even being in mid-card, when their time comes, they're ready.
Yes.
It's all about timing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all
Yeah.
about
I
timing.
think
Yeah.
if you just keep the momentum, you're good.
and timing is the
That's-
key.
Yeah, that's
Timing is the
that's
key.
Stone Cold. Yeah,
Yeah, timing is key because you don't want to jump the gun as well.
Because like even if we look at Stone Cold, right? That was all timing.
Facts.
right? He won the King of the Ring because Triple H messed up, right? And he cut that crazy promo, right? And that's it. That's lightning in the bottle. But you caught it twice when The Rock turned heel. Then you caught it another time when Triple H turned heel.
Yep. When
right?
he turned heel.
So you had 3 top guys.
At the perfect time.
The perfect time.
Perfect fucking time.
Right?
At the time when they were like, you made them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody was all same level.
Yeah, and they were making each other better.
But then you add Shawn Michaels into that mix, DX into the, like, it just.
Yeah.
Powder keg.
And the thing about it is back to the previous question, I feel that charisma is something innate, definitely. But it is something that needs time to blossom.
Okay.
Right? Because if they would have brought in Stone Cold, like, who was the top guy that they tried to build who was not worth the paper his contract was? Test? The Giant Gonzalez.
Okay, yeah, Giant Gonzalez. That was crazy. That one was
the
crazy.
Great Khali.
Okay.
Right? Like, there's a few guys that we can name that were supposed to be the big thing.
And then they
right?
never
they flopped. Right? Now here's the thing. Now, do you all think that a wrestler has to leave a promotion and come back to be a top guy sometimes?
Yes. Yes. Because recent memory, Cody Rhodes.
Yes.
He was mid-Carter in WWE for his entire tenure, goes to New Japan, creates AEW. He's the top guy in AEW, and then he creates this anticipation. Immediately, he's already main event spot. Immediately, and he hasn't looked back.
Yes.
There's no United States Championship match, no Intercontinental. This is all
top spot.
Yes.
Same thing with Drew McIntyre.
Another one who's perfectly put himself in a place where he doesn't need anything.
Yes.
At this point.
The only one that I would say it took a little bit of time, who left and came back, Bobby Lashley.
Trash.
See, this is why the run-in is the show.
Run-in.
Right? So
Lashley's trash, bro? Nah, okay.
So with Bobby Lashley, he left, became a top guy somewhere else, came back, and was stuck in the mid-card for, 2 years?
For a minute, yeah.
Right? And then...
but he was...
It goes back to it goes... You ain't going to talk about Bobby Lashley like that.
I'm just saying, bro.
About to hurt business. Come on, bro.
He hurt the business. How about that?
Wow. Yeah. Jeez. This is going off the rails. See, this is what happens when you let We Run It trash into the building. This is what happens. But to your point, here's the thing, right? With Bobby Lashley, right? Great in-ring talent, right? Very intense. Even though you don't like his finisher, great in-ring talent, but couldn't speak on the mic. No charisma. Charisma vacuum. MVP is what sold Bobby Lashley, right? And sometimes to get over as a top guy, you need somebody else to speak for you.
And just real quickly, I don't know if you were familiar, but prior to MVP, he had Leo Rush, who I thought that was a great pairing. I was a fan of Leo Rush.
And Leo Rush was supposed to be making millions and millions of dollars, but Leo Rush always gets in Leo Rush's way.
Yeah.
Right?
I was watching him in WWE, and then about a year or two later, I'm watching MTV The Real World Challenge, and look who it is.
Leo Rush.
What are you doing here, bro? But I understand. But
it's just... Here's another thing about being a top guy. A lot of these guys get opportunities and they waste the opportunity to be that guy. Right? And
is that pressure?
It is pressure, because being a top guy, to take the reins, right? It's not just in ring. Like, I would consider Bobby Heenan a top guy. I would consider Paul Heyman a top guy, even though
Paul Heyman. Is
they were
better.
not in the ring.
In terms of management?
In terms of management, in terms of being managers, in terms of being on the screen, right? Without Paul Heyman selling us Brock Lesnar, selling us Roman, selling us CM Punk.
ECW.
You know what I mean? ECW.
Yeah, ECW, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We would not have some of the moments that we have. Right? And then on top of that, this goes back to talent versus charisma. And to your point, this proves your point. Curtis Axel, yes.
Axel.
Kurt Hennig's son, right? Charisma.
R.I.P.
He didn't. Oh, Kurt Hennig, yes.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Right? Curtis Axel, charisma, vacuum until he became Hulk Hogan. Right? It's the truth. Right? So it doesn't matter what you give a guy. Sometimes it's never going to work.
Yeah.
That's true.
Is
That's
that
true.
Vince's fault too, though?
It's
Like in terms of the character that he gives these wrestlers?
real quickly.
Yeah.
All right. So, for example, we had Husky Harris, who became Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
Where would you put that? That's all charisma.
That's all charisma.
That's all charisma, all character work.
Yes.
They tried to force us. Well, what was it? The
Nexus?
The Nexus. That wasn't going to work.
Well, Nexus was to build NXT.
True.
All those guys
True.
came from developmental.
And then they were yeah.
But all those guys, with the exception of
Who was that? There was Ryback.
Tarver and a few other those guys, were never going to make it. Right? But some of those guys did make it.
And yes, and you can see how some of them were primed to, all right, yeah, missed opportunity, potentially.
All right. And here's the question, right? Speaking about missed opportunity, right? Who do y'all think was a missed opportunity to be that guy?
To be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily say missed opportunity, maybe missed timing. Missed timing because I think potentially, hear me out, I know Roman Reigns' tribal chief character was his best to date.
Mm-hmm.
But do you remember, I want to say it was 2013, 2014 Royal Rumble, where it was Batista that won it, but everyone was behind Roman.
Yeah.
Roman ended up losing. I thought that was potentially an example of a missed opportunity to capitalize at that time.
What I say a missed opportunity is a guy who everybody loved and it didn't happen at all. Like Sandow.
Damian Sandow.
Right?
Razor Ramon.
I could say Razor Ramon a missed opportunity.
Razor Ramon. As your top, okay, I'm thinking about it now, as your top guy, but he had competition at the time. You had your Shawn Michaels, your Bret Hart, your Diesel, your Undertaker.
But he was always in the mix.
He was always in the mix. He was always in the mix. It was always in the mix.
Right?
And it would fall in line with it's just a matter of time.
Now, going back to that question, and this is a question for both of y'all, about the company. Do you think during the time Vince was right 9 times out of 10 about his decisions on who could be the top guy or who should get the push? Do you think he was right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
He turned out to be right, yes.
I agree with you guys because I think about Cesaro. When Cesaro was let go, everybody was like, oh no, WWE didn't use him correctly. And now look at him in the same position at a different company.
That's all him.
That's all him.
That's all him.
Right? The reverse of that is Matt Hardy. Right? With the delete stuff. He came back to fanfare, but that's the company ruining that situation. Now, do you think the it factor can transfer with a wrestler going from company to company?
No.
No?
Yeah, if you have the it factor, you should be able to transfer it, essentially.
It's just a different culture.
Okay.
Will be probably different from the WWE. You know what I mean? Like just how, like WWE does a good job of storytelling. How can you storytell? Does he go after the top guy when he goes to the next match?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Two things. All right.
Yeah.
Two things. I
So,
want to say two examples. All right. So what do you feel of Dean Ambrose, John Moxley? Like he was pretty big in WWE. I think
He
he
never
has.
had it.
You don't think he ever had it in WWE?
Never had it.
I thought so.
I thought he had it.
Yeah.
I
Never
thought he
had it.
Really? I thought he was on the cusp of it.
Was he like a Roddy Piper to you?
He was. They were trying to make him Stone Cold.
Yes, Stone Cold.
Right?
But
Crazy.
I know what you mean by Roddy Piper. I
If-
see that.
Energy.
Yeah.
If they would have made him more like Roddy,
Crazy.
yeah, then cool. But Roddy was a heel for the majority of his career,
Yes, I agree.
right? So Dean is not that guy.
Okay.
You know, he's the least talented of the three.
Okay. And I know DJ's not going like this, but in terms of transferring and having a following and the push, Joe Hendry.
Yeah,
Trash.
You're
Yeah.
saying trash, but this shit magnified at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
so I feel.
It's
But the thing is, the reason that it was able to transfer is because it's a different era right now,
Yeah.
where Joe Hendry is going to be Joe Hendry in WWE as well as TNA. Regardless,
as opposed to when you
As
switch
a-
companies
yeah.
and they
Right.
here, you're this. You're
Like-
Goldust here,
Because
but you're a
Hogan's
cowboy
a-
here.
who?
WWE Hogan. He
Yeah.
He was
Hulk Hogan.
in Hollywood.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
yes,
was Hulk
yeah,
Hogan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So like Ric Flair,
Yeah.
his first run in WWE, trash,
It was trash. It was trash.
big
I don't
trash,
even remember it.
right?
What was that the Big Bill
Yeah.
belt the first time around? Yeah.
Big trash, huge trash, right? Booker T to WCW to WWE,
Facts.
great,
Facts.
right?
Especially with him and The Rock initially too.
RVD anywhere he goes,
Yeah.
It was
Energy.
great.
yes. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
There are some guys, Cactus Jack,
Mick yeah, we
Yeah.
did mention that.
Some-
I'm not a fan, but
some guys
I know.
are great some places. Vader, great in WCW,
Yeah.
awful in WWE. And that's the company.
Shane,
Right?
ask you this. Bam Bam. What do you think?
Bam Bam was a missed opportunity.
He was missed, yes.
A missed opportunity because that man was 400 pounds.
Nice.
Moving
doing
like a cruiserweight.
cartwheels
Nice.
and drop kicks and all that. Missed opportunity to have him win a title and go crazy,
And he had the look.
right?
He had the look.
He had the
He had
look.
the look.
Right? And he could really wrestle, right? So missed opportunity, right? There are some guys that can transfer, like Dusty Rhodes, great in WWE, right? Regardless of the trash character, but that leads back to the point that he got it over regardless.
Anywhere, wherever.
Anywhere.
Dusty.
Dusty, he got it over.
You didn't like his character?
The polka dots?
Bro, come on.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Come on.
Got over.
Nigga.
He got over.
You an example.
But you get what I'm saying, though, right? Some people could transfer. Like Macho Man could transfer because he's
Anywhere.
still Macho Man. But like Lord Tensai, right?
See, but they tried. They tried. Albert,
Yeah,
A
there you go.
Train, A Train, Albert. Remember him,
Prince Albert,
Yeah.
he went to New Japan, made a name for himself, came back, right? And they stuck him in this gimmick of this Asian superstar. Like we would forget that he's
Like
Albert.
you're not Albert. Like come on.
We forget he's penis earring.
Right.
See,
Like,
but that was Vince.
yes,
He didn't respect continuity. He didn't respect the fans' knowledge.
facts.
Like we know this guy. Yeah,
All right,
Triple
so-
H. He's gonna acknowledge that this is what I.
know.
Hey, Cody Rhodes, when he came back, he immediately did the Stardust thing
Yes.
in this match, just to
Acknowledge,
you know,
this
little-
is where I came from.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to close it on this point. Who do y'all think is the next breakout star? The next that guy?
Jacob Fatu
Jacob Fatu. I'm talking about Jacob Fatu is that guy.
is that guy.
Definitely.
Yes,
Right?
he has.
that guy.
He's on the cusp.
No, he's there.
Yeah.
He's not on the cusp. He's there. He's been there since he got here.
I feel.
Maybe what do you think? 2 more years?
Yeah, I'm talking about
I'd
when
say-
he's really gonna be there.
I'll
Yes.
say, yeah, a year and a half to 2 years, right? I'd say Karrion Kross, right? Because the people are getting behind him. And you know he spends his own money for his promos and all that.
That's dope.
Right? So once you find that out, that he loves this game that much,
You wanna get behind that. Yeah.
you get behind it.
And on Karrion Kross, did you see his NXT work when he first came?
Yeah. So, but
He's primed.
the thing is that goes back to the previous question that what you did before might not transfer somewhere
Immediately.
else,
That's true.
right? The authors of pain, awful,
They're gone.
right? The Road Warriors, the fake ass Road Warriors, gone.
Pretty deadly. Need to be gone.
Or repackaged.
Like Carmelo Hayes, great in NXT,
He's becoming a laughingstock now. Like at this
awful in
point, yeah.
WWE.
Yeah.
Because-
He's you're putting him in a position to just continuously lose. And like
but-
it's not, you're not building his.
It's not just the losing; it's he's not good on the mic. He's not good, and he's not good. You could say
No. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying, do you, because he's not good, do you pair him up with somebody again?
right.
Maybe like
that's why he's with the Miz.
It is.
Oh, okay.
The Miz is great on the mic.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. but that's like Carmelo Hayes could be a breakout star, but it's going to take him 5
time.
more years.
Yeah. That's
Agreed.
Keep
Agreed.
Miz for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Because Miz is, he's that old vet in the locker room. If he's traveling
That's
with them
true.
together, helping
Wait,
them
so
out.
who do you think?
Karrion Kross, Dominic Mysterio,
Oh, damn. Dominic.
Braun Breaker,
Hell yeah.
I forgot about Dominic.
Jacob Fatu is a shoe-in, and that's it. Like that's it. The people that have been there for the last 10 years, they're in the mid card.
Somebody to keep an eye out. Obafemi.
Obafemi's going to be that guy.
My nigga.
He's going to be that guy.
I don't
Obafemi.
know too much on that.
You gotta watch.
You'll
He's
see
gonna be
it.
that guy.
I'll show.
All right. So on that note,
This
this has been the run-in.
We run it.
No.
the run-in.
We run it.
So you want to know why this has been the run-in? Because you weren't on this camera. We offered you a seat, right?
I want you to go see
We
it.
should have put an L instead of an R, right? For your seat, loser. Anyway, this has been
The run-in.
the run-in.
We run it.